Hi and welcome to Challenge Accepted. This week is going to be a bit different to the Warframe stuff we usually do, mainly for lots of technical reasons I won't get into, but that doesn't mean this won't go back to Warframe. I was tempted on doing both, but this game of Grand Theft Auto Online that we did this on was so much fun, I just had to put this up. Worked out at something like 6 hours we actually played this game for, doing this one run, and it started life as you could only use one car, you had to rob all the stores, but you had to do it in a row without dying or changing car. That kind of evolved as we were doing this, because on the third store we got shot and died. The car that we chose, it was decided that we weren't allowed to do this, and yes, I keep saying we, there's a reason, I'll get to this, hang on. We decided that we won't use the good car, we'll use the worst car that we could find. Then it was the first car that comes along, we'll take that, we'll modify it, we'll use that. So the first car that came along was parked up, it actually gave us a bounty while we picked this up, which was great. Luckily we were in a private lobby, so there was only me in there, on my account. And we modified it, and then that's when it became rob all the stores, make at least 50,000, because this car ended up costing me 50,000 to upgrade. I've only won 6 races in Grand Theft Auto Online. I've only actually started playing this properly in the past 2 weeks, maybe. Before that, I literally just loaded it up to have a look at the updates when the DLC and stuff came out for it. But this is coming for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, 18th of November-ish. And it's finally going to come to PC, which is when I'm going to play it all the time, sometime in January next year. And you can migrate from the 360 or the PS3. You can migrate once to the new generation of platforms, whatever the hell they said. So how this came about was, I was sitting there with a friend and I basically loaded it up because he wanted to try it. And while playing it, that's when the challenges started coming out. Oh, but you can't do this, but you can't do that, and all the rest of it, while we are sitting there actually playing it. This is hence why I keep saying we, because there was 2 of us there. So he basically threw out the challenges, and I turned around and went, you know what, let's do this. So got my laptop out, hooked everything up so I could record it, got the microphone out, thought to myself, we'll record the whole thing and then we'll basically chop out the funniest bits, because it's Grand Theft Auto. You always do something daft in Grand Theft Auto, and you always say something silly. And it didn't work out that way, because the microphone I was using I've had for nearly a year now, and I still haven't got the correct cable for it. So it basically came out so mumbled and quiet, the audio from the microphone was unusable, even after boosting it to 3 different programs. It just wasn't, because I need a... can't remember the name of the stupid piece of plastic I need. It'll basically give the microphone phantom power, which will let it work better. But as it sits at the minute, it won't work correctly because it hasn't got enough power. It needs an external power source. And I can do that through USB, but the device I want costs 30 times more than the microphone itself did, so I didn't bother. I may have to soon because my headset's on its last legs, but that's a whole different matter. And it was going to be, I mean, there's certain parts of it that were quite funny, and the things that were being said were quite weird, to be honest. And at the time I'm thinking, I noted down how, when we started and how long into it, because I had a stopwatch going so I could cut out certain parts, and it was so disappointing when the audio didn't work. It really was. There's a certain point after we're robbing one of the stores where we drove into a tunnel to escape the 4-star wanted level. We came out, drove all the way down with 2 tyres, and we were on the railway. We kept going off and coming back. Well, we got distracted while driving down it, and a train hits us. So for some silly reason we decided, you know what, let's drive back onto the railway while the train's still there moving. And what happened is it crushed the entire front end of the vehicle. Kind of completely ruined it, because we spent the next 10 minutes running to a road, because we were like literally in the middle of nowhere. And that was actually quite funny, because we were physically distracted as something arrived, and we weren't paying any attention, and literally the pair of us screamed when the car got crushed.
That's every last cent, I swear.
And burst out in laughter when we turned around and we drove back into it. Well, I drove back into it because I was playing at this point. And it was just so disappointing that doesn't work. So originally it was decided use the same car, only use that car, but after the first 4-star wanted level, we had to ditch the car because it had 2 flat tires. It was shot to hell, and it was still drivable, but it wasn't survivable. So basically, when that car comes to a point that it's unusable, we would jump into the first car that would arrive, and that was the only thing that really changed that much when it came to the car. But we had to do 2 store robberies before we could phone the mechanic and get him to bring the car back after it had been repaired. So whatever car we had, if we picked up a crappy car, we'd be stuck with a crappy car before we got a decent one back. And this took nearly 6 hours to actually do this damn thing. The weird one was, I think it was the 3rd to last one. We're just robbed the place after, then we drove around the back to bring up the menu to find out where the next place is we've got to go. We drive around the back and the police pull right in front of us, and there ends up like another car coming from the other way, and we are a couple feet away from them, and they completely ignored when the wanted level went away. And we drove out and the game crashed. That sucked, because doing this all in one session is what the original challenge was, and that's pretty much when it failed, because the game crashed. We literally drive out of there and gone. There was actually one point where the car was taken off us because we stupidly drove. I thought it was a way through. It looked like it was a way through, and we get there and it's not, and the car ended up squished in the police shop. So we had to go and get the car back after doing this, and because they impounded it. And it took us 3 attempts to get into the impound lot to get the car out, because we tried going over the wrong wall, and that didn't work too well. The police came after us. We drove up to the place in a stolen vehicle, and that didn't work too well. The police came after us. When we finally got in, going over the back wall, there was a SWAT van in there. It was the 4th attempt we actually managed to, because we drove away, came back, parked round the back, and then jumped up as you should. It would have been so much easier to just pay the fine, get the car back. But we didn't. And that's pretty much where we messed up. This had to be the most fun I've had on the 360 in close to 3 years. Mainly because there hasn't been a decent game on the 360. Not that it didn't come out on the PC, so got it there instead. So ended up actually making the 50,000 that we needed to make eventually. It was like 6 hours later. It didn't seem that long until I actually came to the editing this and noticed how much footage there was to go through. It was mad how long we actually spent doing this. So many easier ways to make the money in this game. This was a very long-winded way, but we only hit up the stores once each. And we did get the 9,000 from the bounty. That dropped as well. I think we actually got an armoured truck as well. I think that popped up somewhere. Or was that a bit later on? I can't remember. And then at the end, couldn't decide whether I wanted to sell this car or keep it. So we'll leave this at a bit of a kind of a cliffhanger, whether I did or didn't, because I couldn't decide. And we'll leave this off here for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch yous next time.